Hello, welcome to Sheepdog Says. I'm Sheepdog, and today I want to talk about music that my favourite albums as I've grown up, I guess, is the best way of putting it. Not necessarily just my favourite albums at certain points in life. I also want to cover off some of my more guilty pleasures that I'm a little bit embarrassed about that I probably shouldn't broadcast on the internet, but which I think will fit into the whole thing nicely. I'm going to go back. Do you know what? I was going to go back as far as like 15 because I can't really remember being into music before that. But I do remember a moment when I was in year six at primary school, so I'd have been 11, 10 probably, because I'm the youngest in the year. And we were on a bus journey home from a school trip, and Don't Look Back in Anger came on the radio on the bus, and the whole bus just sung along. And I remember everyone being heavily into Oasis at that period, and my dad got me Now, I don't know, 30 on tape, and it had that and a few other songs on it. And so I was kind of into that sort of music then, but I was terrible with music. I remember going through the first few years of secondary school and trance and dance music became a big thing, and everyone I knew who was into music was into that kind of music. So I remember getting like Cream Live and Trance Nation, whatever. And I mean, what baffles me about that genre of music is that if you go and you buy an album now, it's all those songs just remixed by somebody else, or they talk about old school and classics and whatever, and it's like it's the same songs, just 5 different ways. So I feel like even though I've not listened to that type of music since I was probably about 14, I still know most of it because it's the same music. But anyway, I kind of got into bands, I guess. I don't know why. Probably, being brutally honest, it's probably because mates of mine started getting into bands. And when you hear songs, I remember my groups kind of splintered a bit in what they liked. I remember people being really into rap, people being really into dance, people being really into certain bands, and just being introduced to certain songs that were out. And this was the sort of period where skater music was quite a growing thing. And there's some bands I like that I don't consider to be skatery, but I remember mentioning it to some friends like as adults, and Kev, for example, and being like, "Why were you into that?" But I guess it's because he was a few years older at school than I was, so like where he went to school, so that was what it was considered to be. But I remember getting really into The Offspring. I think I brought their Americana album and then got heavily, deeply into it. There might not be the wrong one. I might get my ears mixed up, but I remember getting heavily into them from that point and just loving certain like chunks of each of their albums. My favourite one was always Ixnay on the Hombre. I loved the song Gone Away and a few other songs on there that I felt were quite strong, and I just loved the kind of the theme to them. And it was a bit dark, but I always kind of just liked it. It felt like it was just a meaningful song because it was so dark. Really like the songs on Americana, like The Kids Aren't Alright and stuff like that. They're some of their more famous songs. I feel like they've been hard done by over the 20 odd years since then, because they're kind of known for Original Prankster and Pretty Fly for a White Guy and songs like that, which were like their jokey songs. Every album had a jokey song on it that was just like, meh, and they'd do a video for it or whatever, and it wasn't what they were about, but they got branded as this band in the UK at least. I don't know about America, but they always just sung silly songs like that to UK audiences. It's quite funny because I obviously stopped listening to them as I grew older. And then I remember being, I don't know, 18 and driving to pick up a mate of mine from uni. And we drove there and back and we listened to all of their albums back to back as part of the road trip. And the last song finished as we got back. So it was like the perfect length. It was quite funny. But that's what that always reminds me of now. Just that era of just getting into cars with my mates, going for drives or whatever. And that being one of the songs on the track. Now they're still bringing out songs, but it's really funny because I guess they know that people like me are now older and remember those times. So they've got a song called Days Go By that's about time going by and getting older. And they've got a song called Can't Repeat that came out that's all about how we had a great time when we were younger, but we can't repeat it and we've got to move on. And I listen to them now and think, you sons of, You've made these songs that really hit me in the feels because they make me think about when my mate Dave was this 18-year-old he couldn't grow a beard for love nor money, and he'd be driving us around in his beaten up old, well, it wasn't even beaten up, it was an awesome pristine Rover. It was probably worth about 50 quid, and his uncle gave it to him for nothing, and he just drove us all around the UK in it. I don't know how we managed to salvage it all around the country, but we all used to bombard into it. I'd sit there just skipping songs on his radio while he just slapped me and said, "Get off the radio, stop, turn it down, I'm trying to drive," or whatever. But it's just amazing to think that like that sort of all goes through my head. There's other bands that do obviously as well. Some of them have been ruined by a scandal and stuff like that, which is a shame because some of those songs really remind me of the days we'd be sat there leaning at his window, just listening to these go on. Liking the Offspring shaped a lot of stuff I liked further on because I remember they had a song. Oh my god, what's it called? Oh no, I've completely forgotten the name of it. It's a song that they released, and this is mortifying. I've forgotten the name of it. But they did a song that was a cover of an a.f.i song, but I only knew the Offspring song, and it's baffled me that I've forgotten the name of it. I feel really annoyed now, and my sister said to me, don't listen to that version. Listen to the a.f.i version. It's better. It's it's the best of the song. It was the original. And I'm like, I don't want to listen to your nerdy lame bands. Shut up and leave me alone and all of this. And basically, I then listened to it and we preferred it as a group, I think, really. It was a better song. And then I got heavily into them, and their album, Sing the Sorrow, just came out, and I loved that. That was quite dark, and I think it was that sort of era in life where I was a bit down. I think my mum was ill and stuff had happened and stuff like that. So listening to this kind of sad album that was very angry and sorrowful and whatever, it's really annoying me that I can't remember the name of the song now. If my sister's watching, she'll be screaming it at me on the screen. But yeah, this album was really, I felt it was, again, it felt deep. Looking back, it probably wasn't that deep, but to a then 17, 18-ish year old, it all felt quite meaningful, and it expanded me into like, oh, this is really poetic and nice and awesome. And I used to go see them live and stuff. And I remember living with my mate Shelley and doing her head in because every day she'd pretty much get woken up to me playing one or two of these songs that were on this album, because it was, I think I just hit play on my playlist, but because that was the first song, this Celluloid Dream, it was called. It was the first song on my playlist, not even on their album. And when I pressed play, that would just go and she'd just be like, this song again, I can't believe you're playing it again. And she used to comment on it so often, like, for the love of God, stop. And I'd just be like, sorry, it's just the first song on my playlist. I have to play it, obviously got into a lot of their other albums. I think Days of the Phoenix was the first song I heard of theirs outside of the other song, which is driving me nuts still. I'll put it in the comments when I looked it up after the video. But I remember that being quite a popular song when I was at college, and just loads of their songs getting into the charts as we got older. I remember there was Girls Not Grey got into the charts, which isn't even one of their best songs. December Underground was another one of their great albums. They still release albums as well, obviously, and I think they have one called Crash Love that, again, it felt like they matured. They got out of this whole let's do songs about people being sad and dying or whatever, and let's do kind of more upbeat songs that are about whatever. And I don't know, it feels like as I grew, they grew, and it was awesome. So I'm pleased with it, but I still haven't really listened to them in a long, long time. A long time. I don't even know when the last album they released was. I think Crash Love was the last one I'm aware of. They must have done a couple since then. I didn't check. I should have checked before the video. But no, they were a band that I listened to religiously through my time when I first got my first flat. There was a time when I went to a few festivals and stuff, and I think I mentioned before that I wanted to go see them. I saw them play. My sister was trying to convince me to go and see Coheed and Cambria play, and again, I told her no, get lost, not interested, take your nerdy bands and do one. I'm going to queue for probably something much less good. I can't even remember what I would have gone to see instead. I might have even just not seen a band and wandered around paying £5 or £6 for a slushie that supposedly had alcohol in it, but I had about 20 of them and wasn't drunk, so they probably weren't alcoholic at all. But I then fell in love with that band, partially because there was a girl I kind of liked when I was younger who was into them heavily and introduced me to them, and so we listened to them together, and then it was like, yeah, I just got really into it. I saw them play, I think I said before, I saw them play like 15 times or something crazy. Their first one I listened to was their second album, which was called In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3, because they'd done this weird system where it was second stage Turbo and Blade, Silent Earth 3, Good Apollo, I'm Burning Star 4, and then it went on like that. So their last album was the first one in the story, and you're supposed to listen to them in that order to get the whole tale. And again, that was really cool because it appealed to my geeky side because it was all around a comic, it was all around a story. You had to guess the meaning of the story. There were forums on the internet where people were trying to piece together the story, and annoyingly, they released a couple of comics. And then they derailed it and threw them all aside. And then they started a new comic series, and called the Amori Wars, and that's completely different to the old one. It's different enough that it doesn't feel right. And when I look at it, I'm like, well, this isn't the same story. I remember when I went to university, I met Kirsty, my wife, and I was obsessed. I was genuinely, ridiculously obsessed with this band at that point. And I remember going down to London to see them play an acoustic set to promote their new album. They'd given this nice signed single for it was a song called "The Suffering" that they'd released. They signed the front of it, saw them play live and everything, and then I got the train up to see her in Coventry where she lived. Knocked on the door, surprised her. Hello, I'm here. You weren't expecting to see me. I was there about, I don't know, 6 hours, and then I came down with the most horrendous, ridiculous fever of my life. I've never been that ill in my life. I had to be in bed. She was bringing me drinks and just trying to sort me out and make me feel better. And then suddenly, a few days later, I was fine. But then she was so ill that she had to get on a train and come down to my uni with me, and I had to look after her for a couple of days. And yeah, it's just a really bizarre story. But yeah, I saw them so many times and overplayed them to hell. And I think my wife would just be annoyed if I played them in the car now, because it used to get to a point where it was just too much. So I think because I overplayed them, I didn't really listen to them for ages because I didn't want to annoy her when it was her car. I didn't want to annoy my kids when they were growing up, so I kind of stopped listening to them. I'd only really listen to them with my headphones in. I then funny enough, she bought me Burnout 3. I've mentioned this band before. She bought me Burnout 3 on the PS2, and there was a song on that by Go Betty Go called Come On. And I loved it. Every time I played a game, if I'd look through the tracks and I'd put that one on, and the race, like the race would start, and you'd be crashing through the city, and that song would be playing. I'm like, this is an awesome song. So I sought them out on the internet, found their album, got it. That was called Nothing Is More, which didn't have Come On it, funnily enough. Come On was on their second album, I believe. I forget the name of it off the top of my head now. But on that album, there was a song called Ticking Bombs that's absolutely fantastic, and a song called Unreal that I absolutely love. And again, played the heck out of them. My wife very much was like, I don't particularly like the voices, but I really love the main singer's voice. It's just brilliant. I love her voice. And I think you'll notice through the bands, Dexter Holland from The Offspring, his voice is quite high pitched. I forget the name of the guy. I think it's Jade something from a.f.i. His voice is quite high pitched. Claudio from Coheed and Cambria, his voice is ridiculously high pitched. Go Betty Go, it's a woman with a high pitched voice. So you can imagine that my ears enjoy that. I'm like a dog. The high pitchedness, that's why I call me Sheepdog. Obviously, the high pitchedness appeals to me, and I love singing along to it. Even though my voice is quite deep, I love trying to sing along at that note, which again is probably really what my wife hates. She's probably never said it, but I think it's probably me singing in a high pitched voice that probably does her head in. But they are what was that, 4, 5 that I genuinely love. I mean, I feel like I've grown out of most of them over the years. I'm at a point now where most of my songs and bands that I get into are just the ones they play on Radio X, and I listen to them. Chris Moyles plays songs, Johnny Vaughan plays songs. I listen to them to and from work. Whatever they play tends to be what I listen to. I was listening to the radio earlier, and they were saying, funnily enough, that when people get to 30 years old in 6 months, they stop finding new music. They stop finding new musicians. And I don't know how long that's for, but it definitely lines up with my mindset of, we used to listen to different. I remember when Biffy Clyro became known, and we had their first album in the car for ages, Fall Out Boy for a period, the Raconteurs. There's loads. I mean, I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but there was loads just where they'd release an album, we'd put it in, we'd listen to it religiously, we'd get it out, put another one in, and then that'd be it. We'd never go back to that one. Never listen to any of their second or third or fourth albums, or however many there are, but just those first ones, their breakout ones. But now it's like, whatever's on the radio, I like specific songs. I'll be like, I like that song, I like that song, I'm not keen on that, I'm not going to go check out their album, I'll pick and choose. But I said I'd get to some embarrassing ones. I mean, one of them's just massive. Well, one of them is embarrassing because I know that my wife didn't like listening to it. No one I know has ever expressed an interest in it. It's a bit girly. It's very girly. It's incredibly girly. But I remember, so I used to go to a lot of conventions, and a very good friend of mine, was showing me. I don't know if she was playing this album she liked. And I was like, "This sounds nice. I like this. What is it?" Or whether she just told me to check out a song by it because she liked this song and she was telling everyone about it. But there's this Australian folk singer. I think that's the best way of putting it. Country, western, Casey Chambers, and she sung I think a Rugby World Cup. She sang True Colours, but she has an album called The Captain, and every song on that from start to finish is just brilliant. I love that album. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure because, as I say, it's really girly. I wouldn't sit there with speakers up loud, just sat there listening to it, going, because people would just go, "What is wrong with you? What on earth are you doing?" I don't think I'd do that with any of these albums. If I was having a party, I'd weave some of those songs in. I once had, and this is another reason why my music taste kind of got derailed. I had a New Year's Eve party when Lamp Up was one. It was like a combination of it's her birthday tomorrow, it's New Year's Eve, let's have a party. And I did the awesome decision of getting every guest to pick 10 songs, it worked out as, on a sheet. I overkilled this massively. Everyone gave me 10 songs. I put them in this list. I went through and found songs that built up, put them all near the beginning to ramp up the party. Songs in that list that were kind of wind downy songs, put them towards the end. Tried to match the beats per second all the way through so that you wouldn't go really, really fast song, really slow song, really weak song, really whatever. I just wanted it to get to a point where it was just fast song, fast song, fast song, fast song, fast song, fast song, and then wind down. Anyway, the long and short of it was, my friends all have similar enough taste in music that I think there was 2 offensive songs on there. One of my friends put Jennifer Lost the War from The Offspring on it, which, as it started, I just leapt across the room and deleted and got rid of it because I hadn't thought about the lyrics. And that song starts with horrific lyrics, so I just got rid of it. And there was some poppy song that I think we got rid of because everyone went, "Whoa, what is this?" I didn't actually pick my own 10 songs because I knew my friends would come through, and they pretty much did. I think I picked some really random ones. For example, I picked You Know Me by Robbie Williams, and I put it on, I want to say it was like midnight, something like that. And I'd forgotten about it. And the reason I put it on there was I knew what would happen when it came on. And so I'm standing in my kitchen, and I had a melon, and I was trying to pour a bottle of vodka into the melon in the hole I'd made, and the melon was to absorb the vodka, and then you'd cut it up into slices, and then everyone would eat it, and it'd be vodka melon. And to say lemon the first time, I meant melon. Vodka melon. It didn't really work. All the pieces nearest the bottle you ate, and they were covered in vodka, and all the rest wasn't vodka-y. But anyway, this song came on, and my friend Dave come through the sea of people, just like, he didn't call me Sheepdog, but let's say he calls me Sheepdog, where are you? And then he just starts singing the song at me because I knew what his reaction would be like, and I was so pleased that it happened the way I expected it to. But that playlist, we just all listened to it for ages afterwards because it was just such a good mix of everything. And like, even I went away with them end of last year, I think it was, sometime in the past 6 months, and we played it on the way because it was like, well, we know we all like this, so let's do it. We put it on in the car, and it's like, that's a playlist that's lasted nearly a decade because it was so spot on. But so Casey Chambers wouldn't have been involved in that at all because whilst I love that album, and I love her other albums, but the ones I've heard, but that one I could play now and I'd know all the words, every bit, and it would just be great. The other one that I'm embarrassed about in the sense that it's really, really geeky, and I never listened to it in front of my wife or anything, and I've mentioned it to some mates of mine before, I'm sure I probably mentioned it on the videos before, was the Black Materia album by Mega Ran. Mega Ran is like a rapper who tried to start a rap career in America, wasn't getting anywhere, and then decided to do a rap about, first off he did a rap about Mega Man, and some random Nintendo titles or something like that. He got the rights from Capcom, I think it was, for whatever it was he was rapping about. It was moderately successful, and then apparently he was on a plane, and he'd been in the middle of playing Final Fantasy VII, and he was really heavily into the story and everything, and he loved the soundtrack. And I think apparently on a plane he just started writing out raps. And what he basically did is he sampled all that. So every character's got their own theme tune. Every town's got a theme tune in the game. Like most games, everyone's got this kind of backing song that comes on when they're entering the room or when there's something happens. And he took them and he made raps about the character or the scene or the place. So he does a whole rap about Cloud, a whole rap about Ares, a whole rap about Tifa. a rap about Sid and how he has a dream of getting into space. He does a rap about Sephiroth, the Turks, and he just raps about them over a mix of the track from the game. So you know the music already because you played the game for sort of 90 hours. So you notice if you hear this kind of thing, you know the Turks are coming in and something's about to go down. So he plays that song and he raps over it, and he just does it so well. He's tried to remix it since, and it's not as good. He should have left it. It was perfect the way it was. It was such a good album. I've listened to stuff he's done since, but this was just like there was a point where I don't know if I must have mentioned him on the podcast or what, but he got in touch and said, "Can I come on and do an interview? I've got a new album coming out." And I was like, "Yeah, like get now, let's do it. Let's." And he was like, "Oh, you've heard of me?" And I'm like, "But surely you're in touch because I've recently spoke about you." And he was like, "No, I just I was looking at podcasts and I thought I need to do a bit." I was like, "Mate, your Black Material album is fantastic. Yes, I want to interview you." And then we just couldn't meet up. We couldn't get timings right. And I was just really disappointed then because it was like he was so good, and I think it's really difficult to just find a way to wrap the soul of the story the way he did. I recommend that to anyone who's a fan of Final Fantasy. If you're not going to get it. You're not going to like it, but it's just great. It's perfect, and yeah, I recommend it. I'm going to wrap it up because this has been another long one, but thank you very much for watching. I'm worried that I'm going to forget all these different songs now. That I could have mentioned in the video. I still can't remember the a.f.i Offspring song that I've forgotten the names of. I can't even remember how the lyrics to it now. I just remember, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I just can't remember the rest of it. That's still going to kill me. I'll find out in 2 minutes and it'll do my head in. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff. I appreciate all the comments I got in the last few videos. Just help me out. It'd be great if you could, and I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great weekend. Let me know your favourite album, I guess. I know some of you did before. I checked out some. I haven't checked out all of them yet. I'll do a follow-up comment on that. I didn't mean to just leave it be. I just haven't had time to sit and go through them. But no, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch up with you soon.